You know it's bad when the pre-show starts 15 minutes late. I mean, this is just not good. Now, we're all hungover from the National Weather Association annual meeting. We have jet lag. So welcome to WeatherBrains episode number 510. This is the pre-show. This is for October 26th. We'll get the show rolling very quickly because I forgot to turn this thing on. So thank you for joining us this evening.
So what you're saying is we're bad this week because last week we were live. What's the excuse for the other 500 shows?
You are
so we were live 8 times, so we're bad 400 times.
That is the accelerant coming to you live and clear.
Yes.
He made all the girls cry in Norman.
Who?
You.
Me?
Yeah, you and Chuck.
I was just trying to protect them from Chuck.
Oh, okay.
I love that whole arrangement on that show at the National Weather Center. So we had the serious NPR guys down there on one end of the table doing the interviews. This was Bill and John.
And the hecklers at the other end.
On the other side, you had the Morning Zoo Crew guys. You had Chuck Doswell, me, and Kevin. And then somewhere in the middle, you had Brian and Nate. And they had no idea where they fit in that deal. But
I got more than one comment that we were too tough on them.
Really?
Yeah.
There were people with pikes and things in Norman. They thought the same thing.
With what?
With pikes and hammers and all sorts of weaponry. So.
Yeah. I thought we were.
Well, we piled it on those two young ladies that were on there, but I saw one of them the next day, and she didn't seem mad at all.
So. No, she was undaunted. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, she was. What was this Ryan up on that tall chair like the Lord Overseer of WeatherBrains? What was that about?
There weren't any more short chairs.
So we're missing one of our guests.
Where's Wallace?
Yeah, Wallace.
Wallace.
I can see that he's online. I just sent him a message, but
he had a really good test too.
I'll invite him again. All right, he's been invited twice. And once we get him on the show, welcome to our cable television viewers, by the way. Thank you for joining us. We are back on our regular schedule this week. This is WeatherBrains 510. We're going to start the show in a matter of moments. You want to, and if you didn't get a chance to see last week's show, you can watch the replay on YouTube, or for those of you watching on television, the ABC 3340 app has a WeatherBrains option there. You can watch it. That was an interesting show. It was a lot of fun. We had a great crowd. Great guests, and that was a fun bit of live WeatherBrains. It's only our second really full-blown live remote in the history of the show. We did one from the barbecue joint.
Yeah, Huck's Rib Shack. That's right.
Yeah. The Joe's Rib Crib, and then we did the one in Norman. So we're getting good at this. Of course, the secret is the fact that the OU people handled the production last week. We had nothing to do with it. So. That was the reason for the success, and I do want to thank them. They did a great job of making that happen. And we can start and just wait for Wallace to join us.
Yeah, he says he can see the notification to join on his phone, but not on his computer.
Uh-oh. One of these little
Time
magic...
to join us on his phone.
Yeah, he could use his phone if he had to, but he should be able to see that invitation in a variety of different ways. There he comes. He just joined. He's here.
There he is.
Ah, there he is. Great.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Wallace.
All right, let's get this thing started. So stand by. Here we get these recorders turning on here. Number 1 for channel 1 and channel number 2. And here we go. Hello? Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! WeatherBrains, the weekly show that is all about weather. This is episode number 510 for the 26th of October, 2015. Getting so close to the beginning of meteorological winter here in a month or so. How about that? Time is flying along. My name is James Spann. I wanted to first off thank everybody for their help last week. Our friends at OU were so kind in helping us to produce that live show we did from the National Weather Center, and we are all in recovery mode. Kevin, have you recovered from that show?
Yeah, oh yeah, fully recovered. I do, I guess, owe an apology though to some of our guests. Apparently Chuck and I were too hard on them, so I apologize to those two young ladies from Valparaiso, and also the gentleman. Huh?
And I thought you guys were being very respectful, and
I thought we were being honest. I thought we were being honest. Now the one who deserves an apology, and forgive me, I can't remember his name. Who was the guy that talked about the McKinsey study, Bill?
That was.
What's his name?
Paul Slaughter. Apologize to him twice for not remembering his name.
I was trying to think who we talked to about that. Yeah, it was Paul Slaughter.
Paul, that's right. And I apologize for Paul. But no, I mean,
why
Paul
did you have to
not
apologize to
responsible.
Paul?
I kept asking Paul, about why can't the Weather Service get an app, and that's not Paul's responsibility. He just happened to be on the hot seat, and he handled it very well. And
he did. I thought he did handle that interview.
He did, and I like Paul a lot, and I kept grilling him on, because I wanted him to say, well, it's Mussolini's fault, but he's not going to do that. Obviously.
It's not his fault, though.
So we need to get Mussolini on the horn on this show and say, well, why can't they have? Because this just bugs me. I mean, surprise, surprise, something bugs me, but. The only logic that I've heard is, competition with commercial interests. Well, that just doesn't fly with me, because why would they have been allowed X number of years ago to develop a website? It's the exact same logic, in my opinion. And I think I'm going to have to die on this hill. Somewhere we're going to have to find this out. But I'm fine, James. Thanks for asking. How are you?
No, if you didn't see it last, you ought to go back and watch the show, because you had Bill and John and the NPR guys down there on one end, and then you had Kevin, Chuck Doswell, and me on the other end. We're the morning zoo crew guys.
Yeah.
And in the middle, not quite knowing where they fit in, we had Nate and Brian. So
yeah,
very interesting arrangement. But no, I thought all of our guests did very well. I mean, look, you come on this show, nobody guarantees it'll be easy. I mean, it is. In fact, our two guests were probably about to hang up on us right now. So
if they had any brains, they would.
But so Aubrey, you were not there. We missed you, and we saw the sign you had, the little, pitiful dog eyes, the pitiful look. Everybody's there but me. I feel bad. I'm so sorry.
I felt bad too. I was really upset seeing all the tweets and everything. It looked so exciting, and but here's to next year, and next year is in Virginia. And I've already put in my request, and hopefully we can make it happen next year.
Good. Did you know there were over 9,000 tweets with the NWAS15 hashtag?
I only caught 7,000.
Well, I'll email the other 30.
The
2,000 to you.
That's incredible. That's great.
Well, and 8 was like 7,500 of them.
Somebody did a nice storify on that too. Did you guys see that?
I've seen parts of it.
Very nice.
That was nice.
But Aubrey, let's plug next year's event. For those that missed Oklahoma City, Virginia, tell us the story. What do you know?
Yeah, Norfolk, Virginia, and I believe it's in September next year. So we're really excited to bring it to the East Coast. Norfolk, beautiful area. If you happen to be driving to Norfolk from Virginia, plan a couple hours extra for traffic.
So I guess we're going to plan on doing the show live Monday night again.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
And there's going to be a WeatherFest on Saturday up there. So any of our friends in the Weather Enterprise that want to have a public outreach element, we're going to get started on that right away, and I'll get to be one of the coordinators of it. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Notice the guys that the AMS have not invited us to do a show at their shindig in January. I can certainly understand why.
And if you guys want to all come down on Friday, we'll hang out here at Fort Wagler. We'll have a nice big cookout, and then we'll head down to Norfolk on Saturday.
Is that everybody at the conference, or just us?
No, just the WeatherBrains.
Does James have to dress up like James Madison?
Your audio's gone funky on us. Hang up, and Bill is using a Mr. Microphone. They don't make those much anymore. So we've got Dr. John Scala. We probably should apologize to Dr. John. He was down there pouring out his heart and soul with these well-prepped questions, and we were down there with Chuck Doswell, acting like buffoons. So John, we apologize.
No worries. No tomatoes flying in my direction.
No, that was a very interesting show, and again, if you didn't, you can listen to it or watch or whatever. So, I guess the fall colors are fading fast up in your world, huh?
Yeah, they are. They really are. I was actually outside taking some pictures this afternoon. Between the wind we've had recently and It's just that time of year. We're near November. Our colors are about gone.
Yeah. Now Aubrey has been in the peak. Your pictures, Aubrey, have been stunning over the last 5 days.
And they're not even filtered. So imagine what it actually looks like in person. So they have been stunning. Most of the area peaked this weekend. What's great is when the sides of the mountains are peaking. So even at the top, there might be a lot of leaves down, but when the sides of the ridges are peaking, it's absolutely gorgeous. So we were out the whole weekend, and there's some great pictures, and I know we've got some wind and rain coming in this week, but there's still some great color.
That'll be it.
That'll be it.
I bet Serena had the best view, though, from up there at the old perch in Mount Washington, right? Is that the best spot in all of New England?
Oh,
Yeah,
man. It's a good one. Yeah.
It probably peaks in what, like August up there?
Yeah, I know, right? Actually, especially for the White Mountains, I feel like the peak is right around the end of September, say September 20th-ish, somewhere right around there. A little further south, though, where I live now, it's more like 2 or 3 weeks after that. We're past our peak up there, unfortunately.
That's one of the best tower cams in the world, Mount Washington, right there.
It is. And Bill Murray, bring in our guests so they won't hang up on us. Go.
Bill.
Nope.
Now we can't hear Bill at all.
No audio.
Oh, no.
We've gone from the bad audio to the no audio.
You can see his face. Not happy.
You know, Bill, I'll sell you this one here for the low price of.
Call someone at OU. Maybe they can get it going.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, he just told us. See, now Bill's hung up on us. So who's going to do this interview? he's the interview guy.
Well, let's give him. I bet he'll be right back.
Yeah, let's just wait it out for a minute.
In the intermediate time, see what I'm wearing here?
Oh, nice.
Nice,
Oh,
huh?
yeah. Very nice. That's the official WeatherBrains staff shirt.
A lot of comments about the picture that was taken in front of the globe at the National Weather Center.
Yeah, we were all there, and look, we left Aubrey back. That's the way it works, though. You can't have everybody there. I mean, if that building blew up, then we had to have somebody to keep the show going. So we volunteered to stay back. But
This is the VP.
we all took our photograph at the World Weather Center there, the National Weather Center, with our WeatherBrains shirts on, and it was an interesting photograph. Bill.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
Nope.
So John and Aubrey, the interview is going to have to go to you guys, all right?
Try to unplug it, Bill, and plug it back in. Unplug and plug it back in.
Oh, these technical issues.
We can always get him. We can't even get him on the phone here with this thing. So, goodness. So who's gonna dig out these bios and introduce Wallace and Serena here?
Well, I got the bio in front of me, James, if you want me to.
Right, that works.
Go,
All
John.
right.
The floor belongs to you.
Thanks. We welcome Dr. Wallace Hogsett this evening. He brings scientific leadership experience to weather analytics, where he leads the R&D for new products and intelligence to support business decisions. Wallace joined weather analytics from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. We all know that as NOAA. And while with NOAA, he worked on product development at the National Hurricane Center and served as the SOO, that's the Science and Operations Officer, at the Weather Prediction Center. He holds a PhD in Atmospheric and Oceanic Sciences, way to go, from the University of Maryland, focusing on numerical modeling, and has published a number of articles in the scientific literature. Wallace, great to have you with us this evening.
Thanks, John, and welcome to myself. This is my beautiful, humble abode here in Washington, D.C. And since we're on a meteorology show, if you guys have good eyes, you might notice what this is back here. It's an Oklahoma Sooners Sports Illustrated cover, so I had to put in my plug early for the Sooners.
Well, if we're going to talk about the Sooners, we got to play the song. This is one of the greatest songs in college football. I mean, Bill hates it, but I think it's cool.
No, what are you talking about? I love it. What are you talking about?
Look who magically appeared back.
Yeah,
Bill.
really.
I know. It's right up there with the USC fight song, and the Ohio State fight song. And
All right, I'm bringing on the Packer fight song now.
yeah, there we go. Battle of the fight songs.
Well, Bill, do you want to introduce Serena?
I'd love to, John. Thank you for introducing Dr. Hogsett so beautifully. Tonight's second guest WeatherBrains, a show alum. She appeared on show 434 back in May 2014. She was the director of Summit Operations at Mount Washington. She now works for Weather Analytics as the director of Product Services. She's a meteorology graduate of Metropolitan State University of Denver, an emphasis in mathematics. Serena, welcome back to the show.
I'm so glad you guys are willing to have me back.
I know. I don't know where the gremlins were here, but we killed them, hopefully. But I'm probably good for 15 minutes until the Commodore 64 goes out here. It's only so much you can do with a 96 baud modem. But anyway, welcome to the show, Serena.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm doing it from a hotel room. I'm at a conference right now, and so I'm at the Days Inn in Hollywood, Florida. I am not in New Hampshire at the moment. So
that looks a little nice for a Days Inn. I would have put that like at at least a Marriott Fairfield Inn or something right there. With my discerning hotel eye, Serena.
Yeah, it's good. There's framed photos on the wall. There's lamps. It's good.
Did you do the obligatory bed bug check?
I got a bone to pick with these hotel guys, Bill. So,
okay,
the last 3 or 4 hotels that I've been in, it's like it's a Faraday cage. So, you take your MiFi, the little high-speed, internet access point, and they don't work in these motels. They want you to use their crappy Wi-Fi or pay for it. The Wi-Fi's, their free Wi-Fi is horrible, but if you only pay $24.95 a day, they'll let you get this high speed, which is actually really, that's also crappy. So I'm convinced you guys are building Faraday cages around these hotels.
No, that's actually illegal. That's very illegal.
Well, then you need to stop doing it. Just stop.
No. Actually, now, in Hilton, we're all about to have to spend $80,000 to $100,000 per hotel to add, to the point to where you get down to 1 or 2 access points per room. It's getting to that point now. And so it's harder and harder to keep up with the bandwidth demands. We've got hotels that have 70 gigs of whatever the stuff is, fiber, coming in, and it's not enough. The average person now brings 3 devices.
What?
And so if you have a 100-room hotel, you generally at any given time have 300 devices attached to it. And they all expect it to be, at 4 or 5 gig speed,
I'm guilty. I did that at NWA. I had 3 devices with me.
Oh yeah, the average person now has 3, and you get a hotel full of kids for a soccer tournament or something. You can just give it up.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that's my hotel rant for tonight.
All right. So I'm gonna, next time I go to a hotel with crappy Wi-Fi and they have a Faraday cage, I'm turning them into the National Hotel Dealers Association.
Well, that happens. Some people, a lot of these big hotel companies, the big convention hotels, they didn't want you to use, your MiFis or whatever in the ballrooms, and so they would do that. They would put in blocking software.
They jam them. I know exactly what they're doing.
And the FCC has said that is absolutely verboten and hit Marriott for about $500,000.
Well, you need to stop it at all your properties, Bill. Before you.
I never did it. Thank you very much, because I'm the one who was running the Slingbox 10 years ago, bringing down all of the Wi-Fi in the entire hotel. So anyway, I'm reformed from that now.
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on my rant, but
you did fine. Thank you very much.
It's the weekly rant.
Got to have one. Just hit a nerve there. Thank you.
Right.
You guys are all getting grumpier as this show goes on.
It's your fault, man.
You're our inspiration.
I'm off.
You got on this show. We were nice guys. Look what happened to us.
I can just coast from here on out.
Yeah, you can. We got you tonight, Kevin. No problem. But anyway, Wallace, it's great to have you and Serena on the show. Talk about weather analytics and how it got started and what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. I can give you the I'll give you the 1 to 2 minute spiel here, and I'll take you back to when I started in NOAA. One thing, so I spent time at the National Hurricane Center in Miami, working on software development, trying to build products that would help the forecasters get more out of the model data and the observational data than they had been accustomed to. And one thing I realized is that NOAA is producing a ton of data, and a ton of really good data from all parts of NOAA. And then I started looking outside of NOAA and seeing NASA, feed of satellite data coming in from NASA, the models from international centers like the UK Met and the European Center. The volume of data was just enormous, and it was bigger than I could deal with. when I was at the National Hurricane Center. Now, in parallel to that, back to weather analytics, so our founder, Dr. John Keller, he saw the same thing, and he realized, all this data is coming out, but it's not being homogenized for businesses to use. So he had a vision, and he spent many years in his basement curating this data set, but putting all these data sets together, ground stations, gridded data sets, satellite data, putting it all together and building an engine to suck in all this data that's being produced. So he's building that. I'm noticing these things in NOAA, and that is really the foundation of weather analytics, is this massive ingestion engine to pull in data from as many sources as we can find and then build actionable products so that businesses can enhance their own activities by using these products that merge data, fuse data, and make data available to the business in formats and in ways that they can do quick and easy business. So that's the quick spiel, but the other tangent to that is the rapid increase in technology. So I'm not only seeing this volume of data increase, but the technology, the tools available to handle the data. Seeing all these being developed in parallel, to me, is an enormous opportunity, and weather analytics is constantly moving ahead and trying to stay ahead of all the technology and all this data that's being produced by all these amazing centers around the world.
So now you hinted at, really this is how the role is supposed to work. All this data is produced by the Weather Service. Kevin, was talking earlier about why can't the Weather Service have an app? But they're really trying to put themselves out there as a data provider, and it looks like you guys get it. What are some of the of the parameters and products and things that you guys are putting together, and what are you doing with it?
Yeah, I mean, Serena could talk a little bit about that too as well, but I'll give you an example. So all the radar data in the U.S., the volume of data that's being produced by radars is ridiculous, and it's being produced on such short time scales. Sucking all that in and understanding what's happening with hail and precipitation and rotation, and at the same time, all the model data that's being produced, and downstream from that, the centers like the Weather Prediction Center are producing probabilistic precipitation data. There's a mixture of raw data and products that are being produced that are not being combined in ways where businesses can use them quickly and easily. Not all businesses have meteorologists on staff to interpret grid files and station data that's coming in. So, our role is to ingest, fuse it, and make it actionable for these businesses. But model data, radar data, surface data, satellite data, all of it, it's an enormous and really exciting challenge to undertake.
So, and I'll throw this out to either one of you, Wallace or Serena. What are some of the products and services that you guys are offering, into what industries?
Yeah, I can take this one. I'll let Wallace take a breather if he wants. So the company started out, like Wallace had mentioned, and one of the very early customers, I believe actually the first customer of our data, was the intelligence community, the venture capital fund that's a part of the intelligence community as well. And they had some really interesting requests for data that involved forecasts, knowing what's happened historically, having global weather data. So some products were created that ended up having a lot of parallels with the insurance community. And the head of our company, Bill Pardue, is a former CEO of LexisNexis and saw these parallels and was able to identify the insurance industry as a potential client of weather analytics. And so some of the products that we are offering now to our customers are, first of all, global data that is historical back to 1979 in 35-kilometer grid squares across the entire globe. It's hourly, it's gap-free, it's been filled with and is utilizing the CFSR data set, which is incredibly useful in the insurance industry for calculating risk. To be able to tell people that on a certain date between these times, there's a 22% chance that it's going to rain a year from now at that location, just based upon basically climatology. And these are very useful indices and information for the insurance community to have. So we offer products like that. We're also doing some forecast data, but we're making the forecasts pretty unique. It's not just, the high of 76 in 4 days. It is, the conditions are ripe for hail. Conditions are looking good for high winds. We're actually doing some very specific convective forecasting. So insurance companies can get claims adjusters out into the field before events happen. So say if there's a flood that's forecast or expected and it washes out roads, you can't get adjusters in there in time to help people and help them get these claims filed and paid out. So they can use this information to, one, triage, preeminently what's going to be happening and get people out in the field. But two, also inform their customers and clients. They don't, everybody wants to save money here. Nobody wants to see anything get damaged. So they'll email their clients and say, hey, it's looking like conditions are ripe for hail here in about 4 days. You may want to put your car in the garage on Saturday, which is fantastic. To have the insurance company be proactive like that and warn you and help prevent a problem or anything like that happening is fantastic. So that's what we're doing with our forecasts. We're also doing verification. So if a hailstorm passes through a suburb of Denver and all these hail claims come in, there are contractors out there, roofing companies, who will go around and knock on people's doors and say, oh, well, it looks like your house got hit by hail. We can work with your insurance company to get you a new roof. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of this fraudulent activity that occurs. I had no idea. It was eye-opening. And so people can use one of our products for verification as well to go back and look within 1 kilometer grid square, so just over a half mile, and we can identify hail size that fell in those locations. So insurance companies are able to batch upload a whole group of addresses, everything that comes in, and we give them a yes, maybe, and no reply very quickly if these events occurred or not. And it's so helpful because the ones that did happen come back and verify, and the insurance company doesn't have to do any investigation, any look into it. Boom, we can see it hailed there. We're going to pay that claim. We're going to be done with it. And they can then spend their time researching the ones that are potentially fraudulent. And that's good for all of us because the less money the insurance company is spending having to investigate all these different claims, and the quicker they can get answers, the cheaper our premiums are going to be for all of us. So that's those are sort of the most interesting ones that really carry over into the insurance industry. I know Wallace can talk about some more of the interesting cutting-edge things that we're doing that are a little more fun and meteorologically speaking, such as things with hurricanes and things of that nature.
Yeah, tell us something, Wallace, that you'd have to kill us if we found out about it.
I knew that question would come up eventually, and I'm sure it'll come up again. Can't tell you any of that stuff. But
darn. We always try.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to what Serena said, kind of tying it back to what I talked about a little earlier, is, she mentioned the pre-warning for, say, policyholders, and then the post-analysis after an event occurs. If you think about the streams of data that are flowing into that integrated system, they're different data sets. Short-term forecasts coming from high-resolution models, longer-term forecasts coming from global models, verification from radar and from ground stations, and pulling all that together, integrating it into a solution that's easy for these businesses to use is to me one of our biggest value adds.
Now, Wallace, there, at the National Weather Association annual meeting last week that we've been referring to, there were several presentations by major companies, including the Weather Company, which is the Weather Channel, and Weather Underground and things like that, about a real move toward nowcasting using model data. So are you guys getting into that too, from building on what Serena said? It really seems like this is about to go to the forefront. I mean, AccuWeather has these 1-minute forecasts and all these things. Is this where we're heading?
It seems to be that way from the looking at the competitive landscape. A lot of those forecasting services that I see are very direct-to-consumer type apps, where my mom can download an app and see, is it going to rain in the next 5 minutes? We tend to focus on what our clients want, and our clients are other businesses. So, we're looking to serve, as Serena talked about, the insurance industry. So as they come to us with those needs, it's very possible that we'll get into that world. But a lot of the tools that NOAA has released recently, the MRMS radar system, the high-resolution rapid refresh model, those lend themselves very nicely to real-time analysis and very short-term forecasts. So I don't think it's crazy to imagine we head in that direction at some point for our clients.
Now, your background, Wallace, has a lot of numerical modeling in it. Talk about the latest gnashing of teeth, between the American model and the European model, and with the changes that are coming up and upgrades in NOAA's computers. Where do you think all this? Where's the smoke and where's the fire, and what's going to be the difference as we move forward?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I like the way you're poking me here a little bit, Bill. Nice.
Well, you should have been in Norman. I mean, it was major poking going on there, but here we're pretty mild tonight.
Cattle prod type.
Yeah. Here's the way I look at it, and maybe this sounds politically correct, but this is the way I feel. There are a lot of smart people at the European Center, and there are a lot of smart people at NOAA, and we value diversity. To us, it's really important for our clients to convey uncertainty for various situations, and there are varying opinions on how to get the appropriate diversity for uncertainty estimates. But like I said, we've developed this engine to pull in as much data as we can and understand which one is, which solutions are the most appropriate. The way we do that, we have a team of data scientists. So what we're trying to do is, it's kind of a three-headed monster of meteorology, technology, and data science. And so we think that, even if the skill scores of the American model are slightly lower, there are approaches we can take to make really good use of that data as well as the European data.
Okay, nice diplomatic answer, for sure. So you were the SU at the WPC, and I didn't even know that a national center like that had a SU. Talk about what an experience that had to have been.
That was one of the best experiences of my career. I followed someone who. Did we lose Bill, or did I just lose Bill?
Yeah, we lost Bill. But
no, I'm back. I didn't go anywhere. I'm here. No fear.
That was one of the best experiences of my career. I think you may have had the SU former to me, Dave Novak, on the program before, and I worked directly underneath him when I was SU, and being a SU at the at INCEP, the National Centers for Environmental Prediction, is an amazing experience because you see a lot of different pieces of how the National Weather Service operates. So all of the model developers, not all of them, but many of the model developers at NOAA are in College Park. The Climate Prediction Center is in College Park. When I was there, Louis was down the hall from me as the director of INCEP. You get to see a ton of the inner workings of INCEP, and you learn a lot about the organization. So from that perspective, having come from a software development background in grad school and at the Hurricane Center, that was an amazing step, and I was really lucky to be able to serve in that role. It's not always pretty, as I'm sure many of you know who have spent time in NOAA, but it's a great experience trying to figure out how the machine works.
So now, Wallace, going back to some of the cool things y'all are doing out long range, how far are you going out and creating products that have some element of accuracy to them for your clients, and what are you using to derive that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's an area that we're just getting into that area. But so right now we tend to go out. We don't go out into the intraseasonal time period yet. So 2 weeks is about the extent that we're looking. But I can tell you that when we do get out there, it's going to be a combination. I mean, my background is dynamical modeling, so I'm a little bit biased toward the dynamical models, but it's going to be a combination of dynamical models and statistical techniques. There's no other way about it, and I don't think the science is completely solved in that area yet, and I don't think that's a stretch to say that. But getting into the interseasonal, where you're talking about MJO and all of those type phenomena, it is a tough area, and the dynamical models are only beginning to show some signs of skill. But we think we can suck out some skill by using statistical techniques in addition to the dynamical models. But it is tough.
And I'll ask this to either one of you, but it seems like you guys are really hitting on agriculture as a big industry for what you're doing. So talk about, some of the uses for the data and, the importance of that in the long run, not just in, futures and economics, but also in societal unrest and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start off, and then I'm going to pass it off to Wallace. The agriculture business is huge for us, and there's also a whole insurance industry built around agriculture as well. All these great things I'm learning as a meteorologist about the world around us, and really interesting ways to use this data. Piggybacking on a little bit of what Wallace said, it's quality and not quantity for us as well. Having the insurance company and the agriculture business, as our customers, we can't be notifying them of potentials for hail or other threats 14, 15 days in advance and having a lot of false positives or false alarms. We don't want that. We want to make sure that the data that we're sending out there is the best quality possible. So that's one reason, too, why we're really not, we haven't ventured out yet into the super long term. And that applies to crop forecasting for the same reason. To be able to tell farmers what's going to happen with their crop, it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of work if we think they're going to get a lot of rain. If they have to change their plans and harvest slightly earlier or wait, it can be very involved and very complicated. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the best data possible. But on top of the staff that we have of meteorologists and data scientists and people who are familiar with the insurance industry as well, we have agronomists on staff. Those are people who know everything about farming, the science of farming. And it is a field that I have a tremendous amount of respect for now after seeing this. And we're actually able to forecast crop yields based upon meteorological conditions by combining data, which is what weather analytics especially is, not just the meteorological data, but what we can bring in with that. By combining these different data sources, we're able to come up with these really fascinating solutions. So our agronomist knows the growth cycle from seed to harvest of multiple different types of crops, how many days it takes for each stage, and what too much rain or too much heat does every step of the way. And he's able to pretty accurately forecast that you're going to be able to get 65% of your yield based upon weather conditions that are happening, which is really fantastic. We can also take that to do forecasting for other things like disease prevention in vineyards. They're really going to be caring about black rots and molds and things of that nature. These things form at very certain specific weather conditions. So we can let people know if the conditions are right for that kind of stuff. And then we can even take it one step further. And by using the crop yield information in potentially vulnerable areas, we are actually able to forecast social unrest because their economies are so dependent upon their crop yields there, which is really fascinating. Just these connections that I never knew you could make, and these really fantastic ways to use weather data to come up with some really awesome solutions.
I have a question real quick, if you don't mind, Bill.
Absolutely.
About the crop yield. Is this a product that is available to farmers now? Do they have to go through a certain company? Do they go through their farm bureau, or can they get it directly from you?
I'm going to pass to Wallace on that one because I think he's going to know better than I do.
Most of the agriculture work we're doing now is specific to certain clients.
Okay.
And we have a product suite that is primarily weather focused, but I can envision in the future we could have a product available to anyone who wanted to purchase it that's related to crop yields. But at present, it's done on a client specific basis.
Well, I just know a lot of farmers are becoming more are becoming more technology savvy. A lot of the farmers are adapting to that change in the field. And I live in a huge agriculture area, so many of them are trying new things, and I was kind of interested in what products they actually, would be interested in.
Serena, I've got a question for you. Oh, did I jump in, Wallace? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to touch on the societal question,
yeah, go ahead.
but we can come back to it if you want.
No, carry on.
Okay, I was just going to say that not only ag, but also hazardous weather, hurricanes, hail, tornadoes. It's really interesting to me, and it's part of the reason why I remain interested in the field after spending a lot of time in school and having fun with data. It's easy to see. If you look at the population curve of the world, it's increasing in a huge way, meaning there's more infrastructure built, more areas are vulnerable to weather, and as population increases, the amount of land available to farm things is not increasing. So these businesses that are critically dependent on the price of commodities, on the availability of more land to grow commodities, and who are interested in protecting assets on the coast from hurricanes, for example, that is only going to continue to get worse. And that's not even factoring in climate change issues. So, it's a really interesting time in the field. Whoops.
I knew it.
Uh-oh.
Hot ticket item.
Does that mean too much?
No, keep going.
Carry on.
Don't pay attention.
Just don't mind the buzz.
It's part of the stick.
Noises on the show.
I warned him if he said the C word that he was going to get punished. I told him tonight. I was like, I know.
Oh, I said climate. Oh my God. All right. I'm going to pass it back to the other C word, Serena, but... Or was it a question? Sorry, John.
Oh, no problem. I wanted to hear your answer. I wanted to ask Serena. Several years ago, I was involved in a field project, and this was in the northern high plains up in the Dakotas, and we were flying research aircraft through towering cumulus, and the purpose of that was to see if we could trigger. We were seeding the clouds. We were trying to trigger precipitation. So my question is, you hinted at this just a little bit. Are you collaborating at all with either weather modification companies or insurance industries when the conditions are appropriate for hail? Are you providing that kind of information where they could position assets to seed clouds, perhaps, and to mitigate the effects of large hail?
Not to my knowledge, what the customers are doing with that knowledge, if they're going to those lengths, I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the research shows about how effective that is. I've read a little bit of both. I've read, it works sometimes. I've read it works only in specific conditions. I've read it doesn't really work at all. So to my knowledge, none of our customers are doing things like that. It's more the, getting adjusters out into the field, trying to mitigate the risks, have people be aware of what risks are out there. I don't think they're going to those kind of lengths just yet.
Okay.
Yeah, Serena's right. We're not actively working on cloud or any kind of weather modification activities, but I'd be curious to hear you guys' thoughts. I'm not an expert on weather modification, but where is the science on that? Is it legit?
I think it exists. There are differing opinions, particularly because it's awfully difficult to have a controlled cloud and then one that you're actually working on. That's one of the biggest problems associated with it. But I think there are enough successes that insurance companies are buying into this, particularly in regions where large hail could obviously have catastrophic impacts on crops. And at least the project that I was on, yeah, I saw effects of seeding clouds and saw the response of the towering queue. So, yeah, I know there are two schools of thought, but for some it does work.
You can either do that or you can just invite Kevin Selly to be the chief meteorologist in your town, and you automatically get 20 inches of rain in the next 3 months, right? Oh, no, Kevin, darn. Oh, well, he's the answer to weather modification on WeatherBrains. But it was so neat to be on the mentoring panel on Sunday in Oklahoma City, and John was on a panel also. He was on the panel with me, And John, tell me if I'm wrong, but you and I were like 2-day-old garbage when the energy guy started talking. These kids immediately zeroed in on him that he was the future and the way to a job. You and I were like yesterday's newspaper. So
Yeah,
you know, did you get that? Did you get that feeling that you know Matt was the rock star and you and I were like the the lead-in act or something? So talk about all these things you guys are doing. You're talking about having Mets and data scientists and agronomists and probably energy experts and all these things on your team. Is this the future for people who are getting into into meteorology? Is to make sure that you've got coding and other types of industry experience to put on your resume before you go look for a job.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Serena.
I'll start off and then I'll pass it to you. I'd say absolutely. And I'll approach your question from two angles. One, for meteorologists, absolutely. More and more when you look at meteorologists who are just coming into the field, having a data science background, a programming background is becoming more and more critical. I think it really is the wave of the future. And sort of a branch off of that is that this conference that I'm at, this property casualty insurance conference right now, that's what all the talks have been about. Talking about how we need to really diversify and include the millennials, and it's the digital age and the analogs being left behind, and how companies really need to embrace that today. Not only people who are familiar with data and this digital world, but people who can look at the data and do something with it and give you results. So I think it's very, very important. And I mean, Wallace can speak even more so about the importance of that with his background.
Yeah, I'm going to give you two somewhat contradictory answers. On one hand, I completely agree with Serena, and it's something I preach a lot to young meteorologists that I talk to, that understanding how to work with data is critical. However, if you don't understand how a cloud forms, how a supercell works, it really limits you. You have to have a fundamental domain knowledge of the field if you want to do really exciting things with weather data. Having said that, like I said, I completely agree with Serena, and it's something I preach a lot. Getting to know data as early as possible is really important, and something that's interesting I've noticed, I'm getting a little old now, so back when I was in school.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, James.
I have
There we go. I knew what he was going to say. I was going to try to beat him to the punch.
Yeah.
So back when I was in Oklahoma in the early 2000s, I took one Fortran class, and that gave me a really nice foundation to go to grad school and learn more programming and how to work with data. I've noticed some of the big programs, Oklahoma, Penn State, are introducing more data management, programming, data stuff early in the curriculum, and I think that is really important going forward for a lot of the undergrad programs to stay relevant. It's not everything, but it is really important in my opinion.
What about for those of us who are older, and do we need to go to grad school to learn about those data products, or is there another option?
Oh, absolutely, there are other options. There are free courses all over the web that will take, we do a lot of work on the cloud, on the Amazon cloud, and you can go to Amazon and get a free instance of little free computer, and you can go and find tutorials that will help you set up and learn the basics of data processing. We have a lot of folks who have taken the initiative throughout their careers and continued to learn new things, and it's easier now than it ever has been, and it's something that we definitely encourage.
Well, I think that's interesting that you talked about taking a single Fortran class and having that be a good basis. But any programming that you take gives you the basic fundamentals of logic from a programming standpoint. So, once you've done that, you can almost do anything. That's what happened to me too. I took a COBOL class first, which was absolutely the worst, language to start with. But the logic that you used in that worked for anything, and still serves me well today in any project that I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm.
And also, not everybody wants to have that that background and that computer science background. And you really have to look and see what field of meteorology you want to go into. I think that's really, really important. If you want to do media, you probably aren't going to need as much of the Fortran background and all that, which I personally love. I took Fortran and did not really like it. I am not someone who's good at programming and things like that. Yet I've still been able to find my path in meteorology. But I do think that it is growing and is going to become increasingly necessary. But you really do have to look specifically at what you want to do, what your application is. You want to go into research? Yeah, you should probably know it. You want to go for a company that's going to be developing products or working with data? Yeah, you're going to need it. But there's going to be some other routes that it's not going to be as necessary for people like me, thank God.
So, Serena, continue in that vein then, and talk about the career advice you would have given if you had been one of these mentors like John and I got to be last weekend in Oklahoma City.
Oh, goodness. It's tricky. I'm one of those people that have known, like a lot of meteorologists, that I wanted to be a meteorologist since I was 5 years old, since I saw that tornado in the front of my house. I remember it clear as day that came down and formed, and I was in awe and just thought it was the greatest thing. And really followed meteorology through school and knew it's what I wanted to do. I knew that I was going to spend my entire career as a researcher at NSSL. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And went to the University of Oklahoma my freshman year. I ended up getting one of the student research positions there at NSSL, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It just, I had different preconceived notions. And I enjoyed the time I had there and the people that I met, and it was a wonderful experience, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do every day. I ended up taking a measurements class and thought, now this is cool, this is fascinating, working with instruments, doing hands-on things, calibrations. And so my path has taken me into instrumentation and measurements, something that I never expected. When you would have gone back and talked to that 5-year-old girl looking at the tornado and told her years from now that you were going to be flying on turbulence and icing test flights, or that you were going to be installing weather stations in the Alaskan tundra, I wouldn't have even understood. I just said, why? That sounds terrible. But that's how my path evolved. And I think that if you're starting out in this career, that's something you need to think about, is keep an open mind and try everything. Try the things you think you may like. Try the things you think you may not like, because I think you're going to be really surprised and learn a lot about yourself and what you're good at and what you enjoy. Because I truly ended up at a place that I never expected to be, but I couldn't be happier about it.
John Scala, you spoke to that exact same issue in Oklahoma City. Why don't you chime in there?
Well, thanks, Bill. That is fantastic advice, Serena. And both Bill and I were shaking our heads because we feel precisely that this is the correct advice. I told the folks that were listening to me that my career path has been anything but straight. It's been diagonal. It's been up and down, even backwards, But when an opportunity came along, even though it perhaps was not directly in line with my perceived career path, I took it. And sure enough, that door opened another door and another door, and the career just had a mind of its own. So your advice is right on the money.
And you're spot on as well. It's also a very small community, and every job that I have had or opportunity that I've had has been opened, and the door's been opened from a previous one. So-and-so went, knew this other person. I was able to get a recommendation from here. It's a very small world, the meteorology community. And I have done everything from, things I mentioned. I did things where I worked with the History Channel when they followed around some of the storm chasers like Josh Foreman and Howie Bluestein. Tried that out for size. Worked for Viceland as an intern and did stuff like that. And every path I took, it just revealed more and more about myself and what I liked. So keep an open mind. And like you said, if that door opens, walk through it. Whether you think you'll like it or not, do it. Because that journey and that path is what makes it all worth it, and is what's the best.
Do you think the importance of an internship or some kind of experience before a full-time job is becoming a critical component to a career path?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm really fortunate that I get to speak to a lot of kids in science fairs and STEM groups and young girls groups about that. And that is the one thing that I talk about at the very end every single time and always highlight. Internships, internships, internships. Start them when you're in high school. Any of them that you can get while you're in college, do it. I don't care if it's a week long or if it's a year long. Try it. It's an opportunity. It's a resume builder. It's helping you learn what you like and what you don't like, what you're good at, what you're not good at. The more you can go out there and try, the better you're going to be. So yes, I can't stress that enough. Do all the internships, all of them.
So, Serena, you were at Mount Washington for a long time, and we're all very intrigued by that. Talk for a few minutes about your experiences up there, and you know, any stories that you like to remember about the time, you know, that you were working with the group. Even though you weren't at the summit all the time, you know, there's some great stories I'm sure you can share.
Oh, yeah, that was such a fun place. You know, talk about a bucket list type of a job.
Oh, yeah.
As the director of Summit Operations, which is the last time I got to speak to you guys.
Right.
Like I said, I'm still surprised you guys had me back.
We're surprised you came back. That's what the surprise is.
It was a fantastic place. You know, especially if you're a weather weenie like all of us are, to be able to go to the home of the world's worst weather and experience what they have up there, to take a snowcat up to the summit where no one else can get up there unless they're hiking or ice climbing, to stand on top of the world and see the undercast below you, where all you see is what's immediately around you, is fantastic. The winter is just especially fantastic, that every other day winds would reach hurricane force winds up there in the winter. Every third day winds would reach triple-digit wind speeds. It's just an awe-inspiring, amazing, fascinating environment. You know, I've been able to stand out in some pretty spectacular wind speeds and see rime ice build at a couple inches an hour, just these incredible rates. It was a fun place.
So, Wallace, I wanted to ask you for a second while we've got you, because I know you're a big hurricane guy, and you were at the National Hurricane Center for a while. It seems like we are in better hands than we have ever been in terms of what's going on at the National Hurricane Center, both research, forecasting, warnings, products, and you were involved in that. Why don't you comment on what's going on in Miami right now?
Well, I have some very close friends still that work at the Hurricane Center, and in terms of what they're doing with the Joint Hurricane Testbed, for example, infusing new research into operations, in general, is an amazing activity. What they're doing with storm surge and pushing that forward, to me, is a really important step, considering the number of deaths that come from storm surge. I'm not as in touch with the newest of new initiatives that they've undertaken, but the leadership they have and the consistency with which they do their job, particularly one thing I like are there's been some chatter about this on some of the Weather Weenie listservs, but the actionable messages they've started including in their discussions to really call attention to what's happening. To me, all of those are really important steps to maintaining the great product that they have.
We got Kevin back. Kevin, did you have anything you wanted to ask our guests while we've got you?
I'm sorry, I was just coming back in, so I'm not up to speed. But I'll listen, and you know I'll jump in.
Well, Serena, any other developments going on in your meteorological career that you can share with us?
Goodness. No, I mean I'm having a great a good time here with weather analytics. It's fun. You know, I've spent this past doing all these crazy weird places and crazy instrumentation. And I have to say that I'm just as excited to be with weather analytics and doing these things that I am now, because having the background of understanding the data and where it comes from and what goes into data collection, to see how weather analytics is using it today to help other people is so exciting. I feel like we're really doing some really unique and awesome things with the data. We're helping people answer questions that they thought were impossible to answer before, all using weather data to the best of its abilities. I think that's just really, really cool. It's something that I always like to share with people about being at Weather Analytics. That for me, it's just as fun as being up on top of Mount Washington, and that's the level of dork that I am.
How big a staff do you have? Did you all mention that? Sorry, I've been away.
We have about 40 people. We have 2 offices. One's in Bethesda, Maryland, and the other one is just north of Boston, out on the seacoast of New Hampshire in Somersworth.
Very nice. I ask nosy questions. How's business?
But business is good. It's great. We're, I think as Wallace mentioned earlier, a fairly new company, about 3 or 3.5 years old. We've just gone through the Series A process, and we've had Houston Casualty invest in our company, and we are obtaining more customers, and it's been really, really fun.
So are you guys in the black yet?
I'll have to direct you to our CFO for that question.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You guys know. We're just talking between us weather weenies here.
And James wants to know if you're hiring.
Yeah, no. So tell me about this Bill Pardue guy, the guy that runs the joint. What's he like?
Fiery guy, big personality with a huge vision. He came, as Serena mentioned, he came from LexisNexis, and for those of you who don't know, it's a legal company, aggregated all kinds of legal data around the world, and Bill saw an opportunity of similar scale in the weather space, and that's where we all are. We're all behind his vision, and it's a grand vision, aggregating all this data and building intelligence out of it. But it's something that we have, the wheels are turning, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen the next 2 to 5 years.
Cool. Well, we've got to roll some recorded segments. And I want you guys to hang in there with me if you can, because I want to talk about Patricia.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to do a little session on that. But before we do that, we got to talk with, let's see, again, Brian Peters is out. He is out of town. We have no Professor Peters this week. However, we have Tony Rice in the Astronomy Report coming back. We'll have the Weather Roundup. We will do Picks of the Week, the Fog Bank, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
Last night, the New Horizons spacecraft completed the second of 4 engine burns. These targeting maneuvers will put it on course for an encounter with 2014 MU-69, a Kuiper Belt object another billion miles beyond Pluto. The spacecraft fired its hydrazine-fueled thrusters about 1:30 p.m. on Monday for about 25 minutes. 8 hours later, signals arrived back here on Earth indicating a successful maneuver. This will happen again on Thursday, October 28th, and again on November 4th, orienting the spacecraft for that encounter in early 2016. Why 4 maneuvers? Well, you just don't hang a right traveling 1,000 miles an hour. New Horizons continues to return images and other data from its encounter this past July with Pluto, as it will for about another year. New Horizons is currently 76 million miles from Pluto and 3.2 billion miles from Earth. Elsewhere in the sky, every morning through the end of October, Venus, Jupiter, and Mars rise in the east about an hour or so before the Sun. They form a triangle in the pre-dawn sky. Venus and Jupiter are the brightest and continue to be visible through twilight. Venus can even be spotted after sunrise in clear skies through about mid to late morning. Your best mornings to look for this triangle of planets are Tuesday, October 27th through Thursday, October 29th, while these 3 planets are close enough to fit inside a binocular view. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me in RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink, by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
I just noticed Bill and Aubrey just hung up on us. Who made them mad? John, was it you?
Oh yeah, it must be me.
No, I think they allege they have to get up like early. They don't know what getting up early is. I mean, I haven't slept since 1973. But let's do a weather roundup very quickly. I want to talk about the Eastern Pacific Hurricane Patricia. So anybody on the show here that's left, it ramped up, hit a patch of very warm water, maximum sustained winds 200 miles an hour. The central pressure, John, was what, 800?
879.
Oh, goodness.
So,
this is just stunning. It takes your breath. I remember I woke up, I want to say it was, what, Saturday morning when the number Friday morning, one of the two, and it just takes your breath away.
Yes.
So it comes in, and nobody died. There's no mass destruction, and it seems like the national media is just all disappointed. I mean, what is the deal with that?
They were expecting this wide-scale loss of life, this catastrophic destruction, but we have to remember that the concentration of those strong winds was pretty narrow. You know, it was within, what, 60 miles of the eye. So these tremendous winds were not spread out over some huge distance. The pinhole eye is what caught my attention. It was 7 nautical miles.
Wow.
Right. It was a dot.
It was a dot.
Apparently it came into a sparsely populated part of Mexico, right?
Right. So a number of people asked me, well, this wasn't a big deal, right? Well, it's not as if there were all these news crews and you had a major city that was being hit by this event. We don't really know, I don't think, the extent. But the astonishing
and there was some weakening right before landfall too, right?
9:20 at landfall, right?
That's still a big storm.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And 12 hours later, this was 1,002. So the pressure went from 879 to 1,002 in a little over 24 hours. That's 123 millibars. That's 12% of the atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, Wallace, what are your thoughts? You're a hurricane guy.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts, but this is...
go ahead. Go. You got the floor.
I'm not going to say the C word.
No, you can say it. We have suspended the buzzer.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, the reason people get their emotions come out and they start arguing and fussing and fighting, and we're not into that. But go ahead. We've suspended the buzzer.
Yeah, I mean, this might be a bad analogy, but kind of like the internet stock bubble back in the early 2000s. It ramped up really fast and it crashed just as fast. The storm didn't have a lot of time to get itself together. It intensified so quickly, and like John said, those winds were so compact right around the center, which is somewhat typical when a storm ramps up really quickly. I wasn't terribly surprised to see it weaken a little bit before it hit land. Reminded me a little bit of Wilma with that tiny little eye. But
was there an eye wall replacement cycle underway at the time of landfall?
I'm not sure. Others might be able to speak a little more intelligently to that. I haven't seen a lot of the satellite data. There wasn't a lot of good radar data, but there's a very good chance there was a cycle underway there. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the case. And again, this came in, and the ghost of this system, it's producing rain where I happen to be tonight. And we've had, tropical storm force winds easily on the Gulf Coast here for the past, 24 hours. And we've had some damage, and we've had beach erosion and coastal flooding. It's been a mess down here with the ghost of that storm. But that might be the last. But I'm going to say, it's interesting. People say, well, why don't you name it? But this is not a true warm core system, is it, John, right now?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's extratropical. In fact, I've got a share on the screen for you right now that shows the center of circulation pretty much over New Orleans. And this is going to feel the effects of a shortwave coming across the Midwest, so it's going to make a move up to the north across the Tennessee Valley. So we're finally going to see some rain for this by the time we get to Tuesday evening.
And this is almost here in a day or two. We're almost going to have the Witch of November up there around the Great Lakes, huh?
There's been a history of that. We're getting close to November 9th and 10th. There have been some historical events then.
I want to say the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald was in, what, 75? So
that's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there was almost an identical storm in 1998, same date.
Wow. And of course, this was all before Serena was born, so she has no knowledge of any of this. But anyway, Kevin, you kind of missed the big rains in Texas with this thing, didn't you?
In our area, yes, but South Texas and especially Houston and inland, radar estimates over the weekend were easily 9 to 10 inches. The reports I saw out of HGX were pretty consistently on Friday. No, I'm sorry. Last night were pretty consistently 5 to 7 inches, just area wide, which is pretty impressive.
And it looks like you're going to get some more this weekend, huh?
Yeah, we're advising now that the parents start waterproofing the Halloween costumes, and hope that we can squeeze the rain out of Texoma by trick-or-treating time, because timing this far out, as you know, is the major issue. But we're always happy for rain here, but yeah, the exact timing still remains to be seen.
Yeah, and we've got, where we are, that rain comes in about the time the trick-or-treaters begin. So all a matter of timing. But, again, I'm the lead story on this newscast tonight across the way. And we've moved into our new studio for the first week. We've been homeless for 3 weeks. So we are back in Studio A tonight.
Is it nice?
It's very nice, but, anytime you move into a new house, day 1 and 2 are a little iffy here. So
tripping over things.
Oh, yeah, and, a few things don't work, but it's just beautiful in there. But let's roll the fog bank here. We'll come back with our picks of the week.
Initiating startup sequence.
Hello, WeatherBrains. This is Dave Phillips. I'll have all of these picks up at skydaver.blogspot.com. Have a new wind map site. It's similar to the hint.fm wind link from several years ago. This one can give more weather information, and it also goes off the borders of the U.S. Earth Science Picture of the Day has a great picture of noctilucent clouds over Norway. This is from back in September. Today had a great photo of the International Space Station transiting the Sun. I'll close out with the Earth Science Picture of the Day again, with a roll cloud over Lake Michigan, taken in July of 2015. Thanks for listening. Skydaver out.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
Good to have Skydaver back. What we're going to do now, everybody's going to share a pick of the week, and Aubrey had to leave, so we'll do email next week. But this could be something weather-related, preferably weather-related, a website, hardware, software, instruments, you name it. So mine, and again, let me just say this is a logistical point here for everybody on the show. If you'd please email your pick link to email@weatherbrains.com. The producers happen to do the web page this week because Brian's out. So my pick of the week, it is a site that is run by the University of Arizona. Excellent weather graphics, excellent data, and a lot of people don't, I think, know about this site. So the link is going to be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. All right, John, Dr. John, what's your pick of the week?
Well, James, this refers to a question that probably everyone has been asked so far. What's the winter going to be like? So my pick of the week is NOAA's winter weather outlook. You can grimace, you can complain, you can come up with your own, but here's what NOAA's got.
But what do you say, Jeff? Forget them. I want to know what you say.
I think this is going to be one of the most difficult outlooks for a winter season in several years.
In other words, you don't have any idea.
I don't have any idea.
I don't either. So we got 2 PhDs on the panel. Wallace, what do you think the winter's going to be like? And also, we need a pick of the week from you.
Okay, let's start with the easy one. Pick of the week. Any satellite image of Patricia at 879 millibars?
Yeah.
That's my pick of the week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In terms of the weather
that is very cool.
In terms of the weather outlook, I'm gonna leave that one to Serena. She's the expert at weather analytics.
I want to hear that.
All right, Serena, go. What's the winter going to be like, and what's your pick of the week?
Oh gosh, give me the pick of the week. Talking about this winter though, gosh, that's
It's like nobody wants to touch the question here. I'm just trying to ask. I mean, I don't know. Dr. John doesn't know. Dr. Wallace doesn't know. I mean, nobody knows.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah, we'll find out, I suppose. But my pick of the week is just going to be an image that's going to have to be something involving Patricia. I could make it weatheranalytics.com and tell anyone to go there, but I'm not going to be that cheesy. Instead, there's a photo of, and I pulled it up on my phone, the recon of the hurricane hunters that went through Patricia, and just seeing the wind barbs. I'll show you briefly here. Seeing the tracks and the winds that it measured as it flew through, flying through winds at close to, it's hard to tell by the scale, but it looks like they flew through and observed winds at about 140 knots, which I come from my family's long line of pilots in aviation. Knowing that is just so cool. So I will get you guys a link to that photograph, because that's awesome.
Awesome. All right, Kev, what's your pick of the week?
I'll go with the winter forecast. I'm going to be bolder than the rest of you. I'm going to say that it's going to be colder than it was this summer. Is that good?
Hey. Yes. You only get information like that on this show.
That is exactly right. Just a quick pick of the week. It's just a picture. It's a picture of all of us on my Twitter feed, but it's that picture you were talking about that we had last week while we were at Norman at the National Weather Center, and I just want to say what an honor it is to be allowed to stand with you guys, because you are all tops in one particular area or another, and I just kind of show up and make wisecracks, and so I appreciate the fact that you guys let me stand with you. And it was really a pleasure to get to hang out with Chuck a little bit. A couple of us went out to dinner afterwards. I told Chuck privately that many, many years ago at my first conference, I remember walking by a room that was separated from the rest of the conference, and I saw he and Al Moeller and a couple of other people sitting in a room talking, and as a little snot-nosed kid, I remember thinking, wow, there is weather royalty sitting in that room. How do you get to be at that table? Because I didn't know who the other guys were, but I just was so impressed by that. And so here, 20-some years later, to be able to sit at a table with Chuck and James and other people and all the WeatherBrains is really an honor for me. So I appreciate that, and going out to dinner. And I can't say publicly what Chuck said to me in the parking lot afterwards, but his farewell to me, you can kind of imagine what that was, and that was just the cherry on top. So James was there. He knows. Yeah.
He is a piece of work. What can you say about that? So, Wallace and Serena, if somebody wants to get you on Twitter or Facebook, do y'all do that? What's the way people can find you?
Serena? Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have Twitter. It's WX Serena, WXCYRENA, Weather Serena. Pretty simple. And then you can also follow Weather Analytics at Weather Intel.
I keep Wallace, are you a recluse, or do you have any social media accounts?
I do Facebook. I'm otherwise a recluse. I keep to my scientific roots. But the Weather Analytics hashtag, follow us, all kinds of cool stuff coming out there.
Great. Well, listen, thanks to both of you for being our guests. That's a very interesting company, and I think it's great to see that it's doing well, and so many people are involved, and it looks like the future is fantastic. So thanks to both of you all for being on the show this week.
Thanks
thank you so much for having us. It's been really great.
All right.
It's a pleasure.
Great. And again, what's going to happen here, I got to go do some television weather across the hall, but we typically do the show every Monday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. And most people gather together to watch at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. And we know that most of you listen. This is a core audio podcast. And if you do that, we are honored that you do. You can check us out on any podcatcher, podcast client. Our email address is email@weatherbrains.com. Aubrey should be back next week, and we'll go through the email inbox. All of our social media accounts are on the website, weatherbrains.com. And, of course, the show notes, all the links and everything we talked about will be there as well. So thanks a lot for listening, and we'll be back next week on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew. I'm James Spann. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and God bless. Thank you all. Hate to run, but I got to run.
This is going to be a disappointment for a lot of people. Usually when we close after 10 o'clock, you come back and talk to yourself for 15 or 20 minutes.
I know. It's very bizarre and creepy.
People will be bummed out about that.
Y'all have a good week now. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James.